Well, history teaches us many things, and mostly we can be proud about our past and the decisions made on our behalf by our forebears. But truth be told, there is an incident which took place around 280 years ago that we surely can view today as a shameful incident, one of massive fraud, in which huge swaths of eastern Pennsylvania passed from the possession of the indigenous people and into the hands of the greedy, underhanded descendants of William Penn.
Consistent with the Society of Friends Quakers' belief that all people are children of God and should be considered equals, William Penn attempted to treat Native Americans, Indians, fairly. Although King Charles II had granted to Penn in 1681 the land that he called Pennsylvania, a vast expanse including an enormous unexplored wilderness, Penn himself took the further step of purchasing each portion within the grant from the Native American residents before selling subdivisions within it to his colonists. He made his first purchase in 1682 and continued this practice in the following years. Many were for small tracts, some overlapping the previously purchased tracts. William Penn's sons, John, Richard, and Thomas, had inherited the colony's proprietorship, but had lived beyond their means and, like their father, had fallen into debt. In order to increase their income, they began selling land to European settlers before it had been purchased from the Indians. Provincial Secretary James Logan, the proprietor's most important administrator, was also selling land that lay beyond the area purchased from the Indians. In fact, he was one of Pennsylvania's largest land speculators. The demand for land after Penn's death in 1718 had greatly increased because of heavy immigration from Europe, and settlers were moving north from southeastern Pennsylvania and west from New Jersey. In addition, German immigrants dissatisfied with the available land in New York settled on the upper Schuylkill River and further northeast into the Minisink lands, without permission from either the Indians or the proprietors of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania officials believed that they needed to extend their authority and provide the institutions of government in these new settlements. As a result, they considered it necessary to obtain a clear title from the Indians to the land in the upper Delaware and Lehigh River valleys. To demonstrate their claim to the area, they showed to leaders of the Delaware Indians living there a deed that they insisted proved William Penn had bought the land in 1686, adding that he had not paid for it because the land described in the deed had never been measured off to the satisfaction of both buyer and sellers. Because these Delaware Indians with whom Logan and the Penn brothers spoke had moved there from New Jersey, they knew nothing about the alleged 1686 purchase. They tried to secure help to resist the proprietors' claims from the warlike Iroquois Confederation, to whom they had long acknowledged they were subservient. To prevent this and isolate the Delawares, Logan composed a deed that the Iroquois leaders signed giving up all Iroquois' interests in the area. Without support from the Iroquois, the Delaware leaders felt overwhelmed, and they relinquished on August 25, 1737, the lands that the Penns and Logan wanted. The next step was to measure the purchase and specify its boundaries. The deed indicated that the purchase extended from a point on the Delaware River near present-day Wrightstown, northwest into the interior, as far as a man could walk in a day and a half, a typical Indian measurement of space. Logan hired 3 men to walk off the area, who were accompanied initially by several Indians. 2 of the 3 hired walkers were unable to maintain the fast pace and dropped out. The third eventually collapsed in near exhaustion. The Delaware walkers early had withdrawn in disgust, complaining bitterly that the white men did not walk fair. The walk ended well into the Lehigh River Valley, near what is now the borough of Jim Thorpe, formerly Mauch Chunk, at the foothills of the Blue Mountain. Because the Penns had sent scouting parties to clear the route and had recruited outdoorsmen to travel it, the walk covered as much as twice the distance Indians normally traveled in a day and a half. Then, instead of projecting the boundary due east from the place where the walk had ended, Pennsylvania's surveyors drew the line at a right angle to the upper Delaware River near the New York border, giving the proprietors far more land than the Delaware chiefs originally had in mind. Solomon Jennings, one of the 3 participants in the walking purchase of 1737, secured a warrant for 200 acres of land on the south side of the Lehigh River on March 5, 1736. He is one of the earliest residents of the Rittersville area. The Jennings farm was located on both sides of the river, with the southern portion in Salisbury Township. As early as 1737, Solomon Jennings provided a ferry service across the Lehigh River to connect a crude road from the Philadelphia Road through Rittersville to Wind Gap. Solomon Jennings died in 1757. In 1764, the heirs of Solomon Jennings sold the property to Jacob Geisinger of Upper Saucon Township for $1,500, and for decades thereafter, this land was known as the Geisinger Farm. In 1792, Jacob sold his land, 502 acres, to his son, George. Jacob Geisinger died in 1815. Eventually, the land was sold to the New Jersey Zinc Company and then to the Lehigh Valley Railroad.
Thomas Penn persuaded the Lenape to sign a document which acknowledged the walking purchase, but did not force the Lenape off the land that they presently inhabited. But as soon as the Lenape signed the treaty, the Penns arranged for the Iroquois Indians, the dominant Indian nation, to force the Lenape off of their land for not honoring the original agreement held in the walking purchase. No matter how many concessions were made to the Lenape after the walking purchase, the damage had been done. The Lenape would continue to resent the unfairness of the walking purchase, and in the 1760s, Lord Jeffrey Amherst deliberately infected the Indian tribes with smallpox. As a result, the Lenape declared war on the settlements. Lives were lost on both sides.